Hello, everyone. I want to read just a little bit. I'm going to be in Proverbs 1. I'm going to start with the 20th verse and read to the end of the chapter 33, I think. As I said in King James Version of the Bible, um, I, most of I'm a to the church. I'm not an evangelist, but with this coronavirus, I got to thinking about people that really need help, that's lost, and I sure would hate to see them go down. So I want to just tell you a little bit, read the scripture to you to help me when I was lost, and tell you a little bit about my experience, and then. Uh, but anyway, Proverbs 1, King James Version, verse 20 said, "Wisdom crieth without; she uttereth her voice in the streets. She crieth in the chief place of the concourse, in the openings of the gates. In the city she uttereth her word, saying, How long, you simple ones, will ye love simplicity, and the scorners delight in their scorning? And fools hate knowledge. Turn you at my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my spirit unto you. I will make known my words unto you. Because I have called, and you refuse. I have stretched out my hand, and no man regardeth." I know when my children were younger, if I called them, I wanted them to come, and I didn't take it real good if they didn't come. I did not dare get up in my dad's face and say that I wasn't or wasn't going to do stuff. And when he calls you, God calls you, and you don't, you're just getting up in his face and saying, "I don't aim to do what you're saying." So, but because I have called and you refuse, I stretched out my hand, and no man regardeth. But you have set at naught all my counsel, and would none of my reproof. I will also laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear cometh. When your fear cometh as desolation, and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind. When distress and anguish cometh upon you, then shall they call upon me, but I will not answer. They shall seek me early, but they shall not find me. Uh, for they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord. They would none of my counsel. They despised all my reproof. Therefore they shall eat of the fruit of their own ways, and be filled with their own devices. For the turning away of the simple shall slay them, and the prosperity of fools shall destroy them. But whoso hearkeneth unto me shall dwell safely and be quiet from the fear of evil. You just lay down at night and fold your arms. And my wife was living for the Lord about 7 years before I finally came to the Lord. And I wished so many times I could have go back and come, knowing what I know now. But it didn't happen that way. This scripture right here means a lot to me. When I was lost, man, that's what I would read to try to help me get motivated to lay down all I needed to lay down and do all I needed to do. In this time of coronavirus, I'm telling you, people that's lost, I don't know. If you don't come now, I don't know what would motivate you anymore. Uh, but my experience was, and like I say, I don't talk to the lost a lot, but my experience was uh, my wife had been living for the Lord about 7 years. I live in Hazel Green, Alabama, and we were going down uh, Murphy Hill Road, and we came to Grimwood Road, the intersection. I had the stop sign, and we stopped. I had my wife sitting here and two kids in the back, and so I stopped. And while I stopped, I heard this voice that said, "I'm not fooling with you anymore." I thought it came through here, but when I looked at her, I knew she didn't hear it. That voice was to me. It was special delivery, and I said, "Lord, I'm coming if you'll have me." That was on Sunday, January the 9th, 1977. And so I had to go to work the next day. I was tore all to pieces. My wife's a good cook. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. It was a bad time. And I made it through Monday morning. I worked for an insurance company. My boss was Brother Roy Gaines. And Monday we had to tell things like how many prospects we had, how many people we'd seen, how much we'd collected, that sort of thing. So Wednesday, though, it was a different story. I sat down there, and I thought, he's going to fire me. They're going to fire me. And I need this job so bad. A little boy, I believe he had just started the first or second grade anyway. He was 8. My daughter was 6, I believe, or 7 and 5, whatever they were. And I sat down and I said, I need to talk to you. I just needed to get just me and him confidential and tell him that don't get out of heart with me. I need this job. So he said, well, talk. And I said, no, I just need to talk to you. And he said, well, let's go down to the conference room. And on the way down there, I knew that wasn't going to work. The ladies were sitting out there in the office, and I knew that figured I'd start bawling. I said, no, I don't want to do it. And what you want to do? And I said, I don't know. He said, well, you want to go for a ride? And I thought, well, that's as good as anything I know. And I said, yeah. And so we got to the parking lot, and I was already bawling. And he said, I guess you need me to drive, don't you? And I said, I sure do. And so we started going towards Hazel Green. It was in Huntsville. And when we got to a church there in Meridianville, he said, how about right there? Because it was an empty parking lot. Nobody was in the parking lot. And I said, that looks good to me. So we were sitting there. And my problem was I knew God had called me before, and I thought maybe I had went past that calling and he was never going to deal with me no more, because he said, I'm not fooling with you no more. So I told Brother Roy Gaines that, and he said, no, you still got a chance. He said, but you better hurry. And so I started coming just as hard as I could come. And it was the wisest move that I could ever have done in my life. He calling people. He called me, and I almost turned him down and waited too late. But just like your children, I've called my children before, told them to come to me, and I would not have took to it too good if they had got up in my face and said they weren't coming. It just wouldn't have worked. And that's the way God is. He's calling people, and they're almost like they're defying him. I know you're not meaning to. But God don't take kindly to somebody. He's asking you to come, and then if you don't come, he said, because you have said it not all my counsel with none of my reproof, I also will laugh at your calamity, and I'll mock when your fear cometh. I know in school, kids were cruel, and they'd mock, all that kind of stuff, and they'd play keep away. They could be cruel. And here people is, God's calling them, and they're shaking their head, wagging their head, no, they ain't coming. And then at the end, when all this comes together, they're going to be begging God, and he's going to say, nope, no, I tried to call you, and you didn't come, and so I don't want to be mocked. I don't want to be laughed at. Wouldn't that be terrible? And I thought about, I did a sermon on the frogs here a while back to the church, kind of. It was slanted towards the church. But one of the plagues that God sent on Pharaoh was frogs. And Moses went back over there, and he thought maybe Pharaoh had humbled down enough. And Pharaoh, sure enough, said, take those frogs away. And Moses said, when shall I entreat the Lord to take the frogs away from you? And it was so incredible to me that Pharaoh said, tomorrow. That's the way it looks like lost people's doing. They want to come tomorrow. Friend, they may not be no tomorrow, especially in this day we're living in now. They were willing to live one more day with frogs in their ovens and in their kneading troughs, in their dough, things that they were making their bread with. They was willing to live one more day. I don't know how you could go back to bed and be living in sin, not one more day. It's like a someday island, someday I'll, someday I apostrophe LL, someday I'll this, and someday I'll that. You'll never come. And he'll just keep putting you off. And I use this little example I was watching. We didn't have what we got now, had a TV, they had a children's show, Sesame Street and Electric Company or something like that. And my kids, I'd watch it with them every now and then. And I don't remember which one of those shows it was. It was a man. He was standing upon a hill, cartoon man. He was standing upon a hill, and he sees a fellow down in the valley, and he said, I'd like to go there. And so he said, that's what I'll do. I'm here, he's there, and I'm gonna go there. So he went down the hill. He runs upon the man. He's so enthused, and he says, I'm there. And the man in the valley said, no, you're not there, you're here. And he said, I'm here? And he said, yeah. And he said, well, I'm trying to get there. Where's there? He said, you see that hill you just came from? That's there. But then when you get back up on the hill, you know, you'll still be here. You won't be there. That's the way we are in life. When I get 16 and get my driver's license, that's when I'm gonna come. When I get 18, that'll be a good time to come. When I get 21, when I get married, when we have a baby, when we get the house paid for, and you never get there. So, friend, if you're gonna come to the Lord, you better make haste. So, may God bless you is my prayer until we talk again next time.